Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that I am in my Decan walk, and my Decan walk is a different kind of Decan walk, and in fact that's what I decided to name this playlist, a different kind of Decan walk, and I've got a hashtag all set up. So that's where we are. We're at a different kind of Decan walk. The reason it's a different kind of Decan walk is because I am using associations to the tarot that are different from most other people. Yes, I am not following the Golden Dawn tradition. I'm following a tradition that I believe predates the Golden Dawn, and one that makes me happier. So, if you want to know about that tradition and how I came about rediscovering it for myself, there's another playlist called Walking the Lines of Origins to Deeper Strata, and I'll put a card up here if you want to hop on over and take a look at that to see what the heck I'm doing and why I'm doing it in the first place. Yes? So, but you're here. We're doing a different kind of Decan walk. And where are we? We are, at the time of this video, nearing the end of the third Decan of Gemini. Yes, which is keyed to Aquarius, which gives us the fixed aspect of mutable heirs, vital attributes here, right here in the world, yes? And Saturn is playing around in Gemini. Now, this video is pointing us towards the first Decan of Cancer. And the first Decan of Cancer is going to be very interesting for several reasons. One, it is the beginning of a new cycle. It was the beginning of a new cycle for the Egyptians. Yes? Now, we have such a thing called the precession of the equinox, which means that the zodiacal calendar shifts through time. Well, actually, the tilt of the axis of the Earth shifts over time. It's a 26,000 year cycle about. It's not really all that important for all of us, but it's one of the reasons why sidereal astrology, the astrology where we put planets up in the stars in the heavens, is different from tropical astrology, which I am more in tune with, which places the planets in tropics around the Earth. Yeah, because those tropics, which we have marked out a few thousand years ago, do not change. Whereas the tilt of the Earth does change, and then we have to continually shift our calendars, right? So there's a whole deep line of reasoning for choosing one of them, and you kind of gotta choose one. And I've chosen the traditional Western tropical astrology. And working that out, that means that when the Decans were established in Egypt, I know this was a long time getting to my point, right? When the Decans were established in Egypt, Cancer was the beginning of the new cycle. So we have the beginning of a cycle, but we actually have, for the deck that I'm using, the last card in the cycle. And that's something you're going to have to talk to the creator of this deck about if you want to find out why. Yes, but we've got the beginning of a new Decan cycle. At the time that these associations were made, they were matched up with Cancer, and the rising of Sirius, and the beginning of the flood season in the Nile, which is the beginning of fertility. And we'll get to that in a little bit. Yes? So, what are we going to be doing in this video? If you are new here, let me tell you. First, I will give you a quick recap of the previous Decan, which would be the third Decan of of Gemini. Yes? The third Decan of Gemini. Things that I noticed. And then we're going to enter into our discussion of this coming Decan. And we'll start with an oracle card, because the creator of that deck very nicely summarizes what the 7 traditional planets in each of the zodiacal signs manifests as. Yes? So, because her writing is so concise and very nicely organized, we're going to look at that oracle card. And then we're going to look at the Egyptian oracle card for this decan. And then we're going to have the first card for the decan from the tarot. Yes, the minor arcana card, which is the stand-in for the first decan of Cancer, which is the one we're about to enter into. And then we're going to look at the 3 tarot cards. Yes, the one we started off with, the minor arcana for the decan, and then the 2 major arcana cards, which represent 2 aspects of that minor arcana card. Yes, and then the last step, I'm going to pull questions out of those 3 tarot cards and lay a 3-card spread to respond to that. So we've got 4 layers here. Yeah, we've got a recap, we've got an overview of the decan. Actually, it's 5, right? If you count the recap. We have the recap, we have the overview of the decan, we have the tarot card for the decan, we have the 3 tarot cards for the decan, and then we do a 3-card spread. Now, you don't have to watch all of that if you don't want to. If it's too much, that's okay. I have a tool for you. Yes, in the description box, there will be timestamps. You can click on those timestamps and jump over to the part that you are most interested in. So if you just want to see the part about the tarot card for this decan, that 1 card, there's a section there. You can hop on over, watch that, and go on your merry way. If you want to see the 3 cards for this decan, you can do that. If you want to hop on over just to see the 3-card spread at the end, you can do that. Because I'm going to read those 3 cards at the end in my somewhat 2 layers of practice style. I'll first look at the cards as they are with a little help from the guidebook, and then I'll go back and look at those 3 cards in a more esoteric way and see how that reading shifts or is supplemented or is expanded. Does that make sense? Okay, so friends, are you ready? We're going to dive in now, and we'll get to the first timestamp now, which is the recap of the decan. And I'll put a set of 3 cards here for you to see what we saw from the last video. Yeah, that was the 3rd decan of Gemini, keyed to Aquarius, which gives us the fixed aspect of mutable heirs, vital attributes entering our spread, and we have Saturn in Gemini. And there were, if you remember the oracle card for this decan, there was also the idea of protection, yes? And there's clarity of thought, problem solving. Yeah, Saturn helps Mercury in his kind of potentially scattered Gemini aspect to try and get things organized, solve the problems, get your ideas lined up, put them in boxes, put borders around them. Yes? So, what did I notice? Well, one thing that I noticed during this decan that was big around the world was the opening of the Straits of Hormuz. Yes? So that could be a problem-solving kind of thing, right? The negotiations of the air. Air is communication, it's negotiations, it's vision, it's mind, it's thought, it's rationality, it's planning. So all of those things went into the opening of the Straits of Hormuz. We're not talking about your or my political stance on this, what happened. It's just what happened in this decan. Now, you think it's good, you think it's bad. That's not where we're talking about here. It's just, it happened. And on a larger scale, things that I've seen personally, here in Korea, this was the final exam period for this semester. So, final exams, organizing thoughts, solving problems. all seems to be in good alignment with this decan of Gemini. On a less happy note, I don't know how you feel about final exams, but especially now that they're over, I am feeling much more light of mind and heart and spirit. Yeah, but I still have grading to do, which is also part of the Saturn in Gemini, right? I still have grading to do. I still have to organize the data. But on a much less, what do I want to say? Okay, so we have happy stuff. We have final exams, not exactly. We have final exams being over. It could be happy stuff. We have final exams, maybe not very happy stuff for most people. And then there's really the bad stuff, right? And when I'm talking about the really bad stuff, I'm talking about accidents and ambulances. Remember, we had this idea of the path being cleared and being protected. So there's an element of protection that was available to us, but there are times when the thing that is available to us, while it is present, we take it and we do the opposite of it. We do the stupid stuff that makes the opposite occur. Yeah? So at a time of abundance, we think, oh, there's abundance, so I'm going to overspend and lose all my money. You know what I mean? There are times when we take the good thing and we make it the opposite. I have seen the most, blatantly, the most outlandishly illegal driving that I have seen in a long time during this decan. I've seen people do things that are unnecessarily dangerous. I've seen many more ambulances running around than I usually do. And I'm talking like, now in my part of Korea, one thing that they have in Korea it's 설치하다. In English we say that they have installed, they have installed, is on the large thoroughfares that ambulances will use to get to hospitals, they have installed on traffic lights an extra siren to warn people of approaching ambulances. And they're not like the ambulance is 30 seconds away. They give you early warning, which is, I guess, good because Koreans don't get out of the way of ambulances. Now, in the way that Koreans here drive in where I live, I'm not saying all Koreans, I'm saying where I live. Yeah, the people here where I live in Cheonan do not get out of the way of ambulances. And honestly, the way that they drive, there's probably no way that a person who would even want to get out of the way of an ambulance would be able to do it because they're boxed in. And even with this warning, that doesn't seem to help. But what I do notice is that the lights stay green longer while the ambulance, to clear the path for the ambulance. And then there's that warning. I don't know if I'm making sense, but that's what happens here. And I've noticed that siren going off almost every day I've been going to work. Which means that there are many more accidents in the morning than normal. I've seen actual accidents a couple of times, which I don't usually see here, personally. So there's that turning the potential of really good blessing into disaster that we humans are very, very capable of. Yeah? Something I was talking to one of the people I work with in Tarot, I call them my Tarot mentees. I was talking to one of them last night, and there was a card that came up, and no, actually it was a spread that came up, and it reminded me of the opposite of stealing victory from the jaws of defeat. When I looked at the spread, it seemed like stealing defeat from the jaws of victory. And that reminded me of the way I've been experiencing this time of potential protection, where we have the victory of protection and we're stealing disaster out of it. Does that make sense to you? I don't know if I'm actually making sense. I think I am. If I am, let me know in the comments below. If I am not, let me know in the comments below. And because I don't want to over-explain, and I think I'm already explaining. So, these are some things that I've noticed in the last decan of Saturn for myself. What have you noticed? I'd love to hear from you, here or in the community section of the channel. Let us know. Let's talk. Let's chat. So, friends, now we have the oracle card for this next decan, which is the first decan of Cancer. Are you all ready? So, friends, here is that oracle card right now. Friends, that was the oracle card for this, the first decan of Cancer. And I don't know if I should mention this or not, but I find myself greatly attracted to Cancers a lot of the time. It's an odd thing I've noticed about myself, but what do we see in this card? It's here for you to look at right now. Yes, there are children playing in a wheat field. That's supposed to be wheat there. There are also flowers, yeah. They are, what are they? They are, oh, I forgot to write down the name of the flower, and I forget the name of the flower. If you know the name of the flower, write it in the comment section below, please. Please let us know. But there are children playing in a wheat field, and there's a heron, the bird, the heron flying above, and then below those two children playing, there is a crescent moon with the horns pointing up. Not something we normally see in nature. And there are two symbols on either side. Now, the author of this deck says that those two are alchemical symbols for metal and silver. Now, I did some research. The symbol on the left, which for you would be this side, I believe, is an alchemical symbol for silver. The symbol on the right, wait a second, okay, so this is my right, so this is your left. The symbol on the left, yes, is, okay, so the symbol on the left is the one that it actually is, from my research, a symbol for silver. The one on the right, I don't know. I don't know. Some said it looks similar to a symbol for Pluto, but that doesn't mean metal. I don't know what that symbol is. My research does not really tell me much about that. But my research is not all that great. If you know more, let us know. But we have the title of friendship here, right? So according to the author of this oracle deck, this is a decan where we are comfortable with our emotions. But we also feel everyone else's emotions as well. Yes? And if the world feels tough, if the world feels difficult, if things get uncomfortable, we might go into our shells. Yeah, like a hermit crab ducking back into their shell. And the author says hard shell other people, which I think means our barriers and our walls might come up. Yes? So we have the potential to be very well connected and very empathic, empathetic, connected with people around us. But if things get hard, we'll duck in. And we might put barriers up around us. It's a time for us when home and family are well, we are well. If the people around us feel good, we will feel good. And it reminds me a little bit of what I sometimes read into the Queen of Cups, especially in the Thoth system. But there's that, we take on the emotions of other people and the surrounding, and sometimes our reaction is to put up walls if it gets too tough, right? What else? There's when our emotions become upset, our emotions can cause physical reactions. Fatigue, lethargy, just a feeling of malaise, of unwellness, yeah? So our emotions will have, or potentially have, a very strong physical effect as well. We might have shrewd business abilities. Again, we might have even psychic awareness of how other people are feeling. Yeah, our spidey senses, our antennae are very sensitive. And we might be called on to comfort other people. Yes, but that could be a little bit challenging because if they're too dysregulated, we might feel too overwhelmed with their dysregulation. But we're still feeling called to be of service to other people's emotional states. So there's a challenge here. Can you see that? Have you felt that before? Where you feel like you've got to comfort this person or these people, and you want to comfort this person or these people, but their dysregulation, their emotional state is so uncomfortable for you that it becomes overwhelming. Have you experienced that? Well, if you have, this might be the 10-day period where that can come up again. Yes? So, beautiful time of connection. Some financial or a business, good events could be possible for us, but a lot of it is emotion, it's interconnection between people, and also our potential to be very defensive, and also our potential for emotional disquiet to have physical reaction and results. Yes? Physical effects. Okay, so that's this decan of the moon in Cancer, the first decan of Cancer. Now, I'm about to show you the Egyptian decan. Yes? So take a look at the card and let's talk about this one. Here is the decan. This is an interesting card. Yes? We see 3 people. Right? There's one small person bent over with 2, I don't know, maybe leaves in their hand. And there are 2 people standing up with their leaves raised in their hands, raised up, right? The title of the card is Spodet, and Spodet is the goddess of the flood. Yes? And the subtitle there is inundation, because the Nile floods, from what I recall, twice a year. And that is a good thing for farmers, because the flooding of the Nile is what gave nutrients to the soil and made Egypt a place of abundant fertility and the growing of wheat, which fed a lot of Europe, fed the Roman Empire, for example. And this decan is tied to abundance and new beginnings. Yeah, the inundation is the outpouring of blessings. It's the divine water. You can see the blue line, or the thick blue line. I don't know if you can tell that the thick blue line has waves, water waves, not hurling down. What do we call that? Flowing down, that in a stream from what looks like a golden vessel with a cloud above it. Is that what you see? So we have the blessings of water flowing down into a potentially desert area. So it's the outpouring of blessings, yes? It's the guidebook, very interestingly, points to the Ace and the Queen of Cups combined in this card, which is interesting because, yeah, we're about to look at the Ace of Cups, but the author of this oracle deck does not see this as a Cancer time. It seems this as a Leo time or another time, right? But very interestingly, even though the way that this deck's creator lines up the calendar does not match where we are now, the thing Travis McHenry points to in this card is the Ace of Cups and the Queen of Cups. Very much this time of the year for our Decan walk. So I think that's fascinating. So pleasures could come in abundance according to this Decan. And we may need to brace ourselves to handle them. Yeah, sometimes even an abundance of pleasures takes a little bit of fortitude to be able to withstand. And even when the flood causes damage, the farmers were grateful at this time of year because that flood brought nutrients and water to the soil and it gave fertility. Now, the goddess Spodet was the star Sirius. And this was the time when Sirius rose above the horizon at the specific time when the calculations are made at the time of the creation of this Decan system. And she was celebrated as the bringer of the new year. She was celebrated as the bringer of the new year. So this is the beginning of the cycle of a new year. And yet the creator of this card puts this at the end of the series. So I don't know, go figure. But Spodet is the beginning of the year. Okay? So, very interesting. Blessings, abundance, water. This used to be the time of the rains in Korea. It's not really happening. That the weather cycles here in Korea have changed a lot. We used to have what was called Jangma. It's the rainy season, would be in this time of year as well for Korea. It's not now, and so things are very different. But that's also something to remember. This was a rainy time, even in Korea. Okay, so we have that. Abundances. Sometimes the abundance hurts. Sometimes we need to be fortified for that overpouring of abundance, of blessing. But a lot of potentially good stuff here too. Even if it sometimes is uncomfortable or can hurt. It's probably for good stuff, yeah? Okay, friends. Now, what I like to do, I like to read from this book, because this book also gives us good information about the decans. Yeah, this is Decanics and Duads by Sakoyan and Acker. There's a link in the description box below. There are links in the description box below for all of the decks that I am using in this period of our Decan walk, because all of the decks that I'm using are still in print. Okay, so there are links for the oracle cards, links for the tarot cards, there are links for the books, all down there in the description box. So, let's look at Cancer, the first decan of Cancer. Now, according to these authors, yes, we are emotional and sensitive. Yes? And more concerned with family and domestic affairs than other times of Cancer. Our moods are unpredictable because our emotions undergo many changes and fluctuations. Think the moon being very strong now. The moon being flexible, being the fastest of cycles, right? At times we could be calm, we could be content and serene, and at other times we could be disconnected, distraught, and upset. So we want to be very aware of our emotional state. And when we do move into those distraught, distressed, and upset times, we might want to do what I think is best when living an intentional life, is being aware of the emotions that we're feeling and making the choice to move in a different direction. We could take on the coloring and moods of people in our immediate surroundings. We've already talked about that. So our environments could be the deciding factor of how we are feeling. And we want to be aware of that. So we might want to avoid some environments that we know are triggering at this time of the year. And we could be attached to possessions that have sentimental value. So those are all things to keep aware of during this decan. Yeah, and some of them are a reiteration, but that's an interesting thing about being attached to sentimental things. Having sentimental feelings might also be highlighted, energized during this period. Yes? Now, there is a need that I pull from a different book for this decan. Yeah? For this decan, the need is, this is from Decanic by Bernice Prill Gebner. The need is to use physical energy in domestically... I'm sorry. Yes, it's a word that I don't usually use. So, it's to use our physical energy in domesticity rather than in excessive emotional outlets. So instead of putting a lot of our energy into our expressing our emotions and getting our emotions out there, we might want to redirect that into our domestic life, cleaning up the house, keeping things organized, into how we're interacting with the people around us as well. And we want to nourish and care all of the others as if they are our own. So we might want to see people who are not in our family, whatever we describe as our families. We might want to include people outside of that circle in our sphere of family. That people we interact with, we might want to look at them as part of our greater human family and therefore take care of them more than we might otherwise do. Yes? This is the time of doing that. And we also might want to be aware that we could, if uncontrolled, if we lose boundaries, if we lose our attention to self, we could overdo some of these aspects, which could end up hurting us as well. So yes, we want to take care of other people as if they're family, but we also don't want to drain ourselves of physical or emotional energy either. Yes? So things to be aware of for this decan. Now, friends, we're about to look at the first card for this decan, the Minor Arcana card, which represents the first decan of Cancer for us. Are you ready for that? Here it is. Friends, one of the differences that you will notice when we are going through a different kind of Decan walk is there are aces in our system here which are not in the other systems. So I include the aces and I have set the tens aside as something different. The other systems, the other Decan walks you notice, will start with the twos and go through the tens. I'm starting at the aces and going through the nines. Okay? So the first Decan of Cancer for us is this card, the Ace of Cups. Yes? And what do we see here? We see a divine or spiritual hand holding out a chalice, which looks very much like it could be in a religious Christian ceremony. Yes? And we see a dove, which looks very much to a Christian eye like the Holy Spirit coming down with what looks to a very Christian eye like a Eucharist. And we know that the creators of the Smith-Waite deck and decks before this, the Golden Dawn, were mostly in very, very Christian societies. Not always Catholic, but very Christian. And so these symbols would strike the eye of the creators and the people who used these decks at the time as very Christian symbols. Yes? So just something to remember. Not saying that you have to be Christian to read this deck or that this deck is telling you to be Christian. Not saying that at all. It's just that this iconography has a very Christian root to it. And what is that root? It's the root of spirit coming down. It's the indwelling of Christ. It's the indwelling of spirit and the receiving of divine gift of life. And the blessings of baptism, maybe the purification of baptism, all very clearly represented in this card. A card of blessings, yeah, which is very similar to the water blessings of the of Spodet, the Egyptian Decan, right? So, Ace of Cups. What is that for us now? So the Ace of Cups points to the first Decan of Cancer, which is the moon. Moon is the ruler of Cancer. And cardinal water's vital attributes entering our world right now. And because it's the ace, we get Kether, right? Kether is the top. It's the divine. It's the monad. And the monad is pouring water, emotional energy, into our world. Now, I don't know if you know this, but when we talk about the tree of life, it's not just one tree of life, yeah? There are 4 different trees of life interconnected. One for each of the elements. And we start off with the fire element, and then the water element, and then the air element, and then the earth element. And the water flow, well, not the water, the divine monad energy flows from the Kether, the first Sephirah of the first tree of life, down through all of the trees and all of the Sephirah to the last, the bottom, the earth tree of life in Malkut. Yes, so divine energies pouring through all of these trees until we get to the very end with the earth of Malkut. Now here we are in the second level of water, but the first Sephirah. Right? So divine blessing is pouring in to this watery tree of life. And upright, and we're looking at this card upright, a key word I might think of is emotional availability. Yes, very similar to what we were talking about with this Decan looking at the oracle cards, right? Emotional availability. We are emotional, we are sensitive, we are focused on family matters, right? Home and family are important. Very beginning of Cancer qualities. But there's also the potential of unpredictable moods because of the moon. Unpredictable moods because of the moon. But also because of the moon, we are empathic. Yeah? And we can take on the moods of other people. Something to be aware of and something to be cautious of. I have a very strong tendency to do that. Now, my moon is not in Cancer. My moon is actually in Pisces. And so it could be an aspect of that as well, for me. But it's here in Cancer as well. Yes, emotion is the key word I would put for this decan. Sympathy for others. Psychic ability is possible. Upright, a question I might ask of this decan or this card is, what feeling is trying to emerge? Because even though we're sensitive to a lot of stuff, and we might not have the ability to very clearly define all of the aspects of the emotions that are swimming around in the waters of early Cancer. So what emotional, what feeling is trying to emerge now? And if I can identify it, I can know what to do with it. If I do not identify it, it could come out in an inappropriate way or in an inappropriate time or drain my energy. Now, because we're in the first decan of Cancer, the moon is in its domicile. It's in its home. It's in its rulership. Yes? And when the moon is in its domicile, we have the beginnings of an emotional opening. Yes? Remember, Cancer is a crab, and crabs have hard shells. But even those hard shells can open. And this is a time of that opening to emotional connection. And when we say connection, of course, we mean that those emotions are not only a one-way flow. Our emotions flow out and emotions flow in. Yes? But there's a safety here. Yeah, there's emotionally safe receptivity is the word I'm reaching for. Yes, there's a safety here because we do have the shell if we need to, and those walls can close if we need to. Nurturing begins here. Yes, Cancer is a cardinal sign. And as a cardinal sign, it wants to begin doing the work of the emotions, right? And one of the works of the emotions is to nurture and to care for others. So it's the beginning, so nurturing begins here. When we get into the fifth sign, like Scorpio, the emotions get a little hardened maybe, or a little crystallized. But here we have the beginning. The nurturing begins here because it is a cardinal sign. And feelings flow naturally. Again, remembering feelings can flow both ways. They flow out from us, and sometimes they flow in, and we are engulfed in the emotional milieu that we are in. And we have the capacity to receive and give care, which is wonderful, especially for someone like me. Yes, I often find myself challenged by receiving care. If someone needs help, I am there. If someone asks for support, I am there. If I'm having a hard time, I usually find it difficult for myself to be willing to accept the care that is being offered. Yes, it's often not the right kind of care. It's not the way I want it to happen. It's not the quality of care that I want, right? I'm not open to care as much as I could and hope that I will be. But here in Cancer, maybe I'll have that opportunity, and maybe you'll have that opportunity to open to care, as well to giving and receiving. How do you feel? Do you feel like you are good at receiving care? Generally, from many different kinds of caregivers? Or are you like me, where you reject a lot of care because it's not exactly the right kind? Let us know in the comments below. If you feel open, I'm not demanding anything. If you feel comfortable with that, let us know. Are you like me, or are you more Cancerian? Okay, so that is the first decan. The first card, which generally describes this first decan of Cancer. Now, we're about to leap into the two adjoining cards from the Major Arcana. Here they are. friends, here are the 3 cards. Here is the tree of life. Yeah? So, the 3 cards you see from left to right are justice, and we'll be seeing justice for this entire Cancer cycle, because justice is here standing in for Cancer in the way that I'm associating esoterica with the tarot. And yes, Smith-Waite deck puts justice at 11, but I am reading with a more traditional ordering of the cards. So even though 11 is printed on this card, I am reading it as the 8th card in the series. Did I just break your brain? I hope I did not. So even though this is 11, we're seeing it as card number 8. And card number 8 is we'll get into what it's associated with, but that is justice, standing in for Cancer. And then on the right for you, we see the World, which is standing in for the Moon. Yes? The World for us in this way of associating esoterica to tarot is the Earth, the World is the Moon. Because there is no Earth in Kabbalah. Not in this, well, there is Earth in the sense of element, but in the sense of planet, there is no Earth. Yes, because we're standing here on the Earth and we're seeing the planets moving around us. So the closest planet, which is what we were calling these moving stars in the distant past, the closest planet was the Moon, right? And so that is associated with the World, which is where we are, right? Can you sense the satisfaction I feel when I see that the Moon and the Earth are here combined together, because the Moon and the Earth are combined together and it's not the Earth card, it's the World card, I know, but the World, where we are, this is the physical reality that we inhabit. The World is associated with the Moon, which is the closest satellite, the closest moving object to us, right? That's very satisfying to me. I don't know how you feel. If you feel differently, let us know in the comments below. But yes, so let's talk about justice. Yes? Justice, which is on the left for you. Justice for us is the 8th card, and the 8th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Heth. Heth. And it kind of looks like an urus from the Elder Futhark rune. And Heth, on the Tree of Life, connects Chesed and Tiphereth. Do you see that? It connects Chesed, which is loving kindness, to Tiphereth, which is beauty or the heart. It connects loving kindness to the heart. And what a wonderful aspect for Cancer, right? I think so. I think that's very appropriate. And Het is the Hebrew letter which symbolizes a fence or a gate, protecting from the outside. And then, so protecting from the outside, think of the shell of the Cancer crab, right? Also new beginnings, the new cycle of the year from the Egyptians, yes. Life, protection, sacred boundaries, marriage is possible. Also the canopy, of like a wedding canopy from the Hebrew traditions. Also the number 8, which is transcendence, right? 7 is the completion, it's the fullness. And 8 is the transcendence of the next. So this is transcendence, it's the moving on, it's the new beginning, it's the, we've finished Gemini and now we're moving on. It's the transcendence, yes? Which I think is all lovely. And if we think of the 8th rune, we have Wunjo, which kind of looks like a flag on a stick. And it is the rune for joy, for balance, for a group, great things for Cancer, for attraction, for security and bonds, very Cancerian things, and for good luck. That's nice. Now, when we think of Cancer in Hebrew astrology, from my research, positive traits are sensitivity, emotional depth, and caring for others. We think of the justice of Solomon, the wise justice, which is caring for others. If you remember the story of Solomon and the 2 women fighting over a baby. One says that it's the mother, one says that she's the mother, the other says that she's the mother, and they have evidence or they have their own positions, and Solomon says, okay, this is what we'll do. We will divide the baby in half. You can take one half and you can take the other half. Why did Solomon say that? Well, Solomon said that because he did not say it because he wanted to actually chop the baby in half. What he wanted to do is see the 2 women's reactions. And one woman said, no, do not do that. She can take my baby. And then Solomon said, no, I see now that you are actually the mother of this child. You take the baby. And that's a beautiful story, I think. And that's, to me, is the kind of justice that this is implying. It's a justice with heart. It's a justice of caring. It's not cold justice. It's not the way that normally we think of blind justice in the West. And you can see in this card, this justice is not blind, right? This justice is looking forward. And if we look at the justice card in older traditions like Tarot de Marseille, sometimes we see that justice seems to be nudging one of the receptacles of the scale up a little bit. Because justice should also include social justice, right? So think of those things when we see the justice card, especially now. Very Cancerian ways of approaching justice, I think. It's the month of duality and introspection, the month of Cancer. And the crab, for Hebrew astrology, the crab grips tightly, right? It's the idea of clinging to God, or to hold fast to spiritual principles in times of chaos. Yeah, when things seem to get chaotic, we hold fast to our spiritual practice, to our faith and trust in whatever we want to call God, Allah, Brahman, Great Mother, the universe, whatever we want to call it. Whatever we want to call it, him, her, them, yes? And when I said them, I'm suddenly reminded that when we say God in Spanish, it's el Dios. Dios, it's a plural. And it's not gods, but the God is a plurality in a monad, right? So, them, maybe. It's in Christian, Trinity, of them in one. Anyways, okay, so clinging to God, whatever you want to call that. Also, there's the idea of a sheepfold or a secure resting place. Yes? Cancer will make that safe space for us where we, our flock, God's people, is protected. Yes? And Cancer will also protect their family, right? They'll cling to God, to the divine, whatever you want to call that. They will also use those pincers to defend their household. And it's an opportunity to remove inner resentment and negativity here as well. Yeah, because as we are here and we're in our safe space, we can do the work of clearing out the negative emotions. Perhaps allowing more space for that Ace of Cups to receive the blessings that are potential here. Does that make sense? And then on the other side, we have the world. Yes, we are the world. Okay, so that song came to mind. We are the children. We are the ones to make a better day. So let's start living. Something like that. The lyrics are messed up in my head, but the world, right? Very good for Cancer. Very good for the moon. And you see here in the Tree of Life, we have the world lit up by Yesod, which is the Sephira of the moon, connecting, and then we have the path from Yesod to Malkut lit up because the world card is associated with Tov. Yes? And Tov is on that path connecting Yesod and Malkut. It connects the foundation with the kingdom. The final stage of the moving of divine spirit into manifestation. It's that final step before manifestation of kingdom. Yes? And it's interesting because we can see this figure in the oval with two lemniscates of red wrapping around the wreath of victory, the portal, maybe even the Vesca Pisces. The world there, that figure could be the Shekinah, the feminine, divine, creative power moving into the world. So again, the world is associated with Tav, which connects Yesod and Malkut, foundation and kingdom of manifestation. And it's also the Sephira, the moon of Yesod. So it's Yesod and the path to manifestation. And Tav is the Hebrew letter which, now it's not shaped like this, but it is the cross. It's a mark. It's like X marks the spot, even though it is not shaped like an X. That is the symbol. Don't ask. I don't know. But it is a sign. It's humankind's ultimate destination. It's completion before beginning again. Right? And we had that idea already. The idea of completion and beginning again. All right here in the world. For the Ace of Cups. It's also truth. It's covenant and fulfillment. It's the promise and the fulfillment of the promise. And if we think of the rune that would be associated with this, the 21st rune is Ingwaz, which kind of looks like a diamond or the portal of the world card as well. And Ingwaz is the rune for the great god Ing, the earth god. Very good for the world, if you ask me. Yes, the earth god, the world. And it's fertility. And it's retreat and it's growth, right? It's retreat, Cancer, retreating into the shell sometimes, but it's also fertility, the abundance that flows from the blessing of water in the Nile, of the flooding of the Nile, and it's the growth that comes from fertility. All wonderful aspects to associate with the Ace of Cups for the first decan of Cancer. Do you see that? And you see here in the Tree of Life, the ace at the very top with Kether, the monad, and then we go right down to the foundation flowing into manifestation. That's all very exciting to me. Is that exciting to you? I hope so. Does that make sense? Now, yes, we do have that sidebar of mercy, loving kindness, joining with beauty and the heart chakra for me. Tiphereth is also the heart chakra, with the sun. So it also connects Jupiter and the sun, which is very interesting now because Jupiter is going to be moving into Leo, which is ruled by the sun, very soon. Just something to think about. But here, we have in addition to the monad at the top and the flowing down the tree of life down at the bottom with Yesod and Malkut, we also have that indwelling energy of Chet flowing from loving kindness into the heart and beauty of Tiferet. I think that's all lovely. I think that is all exciting and all wonderful, but also remembering that there is the potential for being overwhelmed. So we want to brace ourselves, but still, a lot of potential beauty. Yes? Okay, friends, I pulled 3 questions from these 3 cards. What were they? Well, from the Cancer Justice card, from the Cancer card, from the Justice card, this time, the question that I wanted to ask was, what am I sensing around me? Right? Because there is that influence of our environment now on us as the beginning of Cancer. So what am I sensing around me? What is entering my emotional sphere? And then from the Ace of Cups, I wanted to ask, what is trying to emerge? What feeling is trying to emerge? Yeah? So I'm feeling stuff from the outside, and then what's coming up for me from within? Yes? And then for the World card, which is on this side for you, I think, how is the divine presence revealed? So what am I feeling from the outside? What is coming up for me? And from this, what divine presence is revealed? Does that flow of question make sense to you? Now, friends, I've got a very interesting deck all lined up for us. It is in print, and it is a deck that I've been waiting to use for this zodiacal sign. Because I decided that, for me, this is a Cancerian deck. So, are you ready to see what that deck looks like? I will show you the cards, and let's read that spread. Here they are. Friends, do you know this deck? It's been around for a while, and I know a lot of people don't like this kind of deck. They don't like round decks, but I do. I do like them. And you might be wondering, really? You don't use them all that much, but I do. Why? Particularly. And this is something I started talking with my tarot mentees just recently. Now, I decided to start working with reversals with them. Not saying that they have to use them in their practice, but it's a good thing to get to wrap our minds around and our hearts around cards in reversed aspect. Yeah, it's the next step of study for me. Yeah? And this deck really is the one that taught me how I like to read with reversals. And you may be wondering, how is that possible? Yeah? Because this deck is not only going to show up in reversal, it's going to show up in many different directions. And that is how I read reversals, right? When these cards are upright. Now, I made a little bit of a mistake the first time I told this story to my tarot mentees. And if you're watching, I'm very sorry. I did make a little bit I had a little bit of a brain glitch when I was talking with you. But when I read these cards upright, they are upright just like you would read any other card. Yes? When they are upside down, how I read a circular deck when it is reversed, I read that in a resistance. It's a resistance to whatever significance the upright would be. It's a resistance to it, to that information, to that message, to whatever situation is pointed to in the card. When the card is pointing to the, now for you, right is this way. Yeah? When the card is pointing to the right, when I think of reaching out and grabbing things, I think of, because I am right-handed, I reach out with my right hand. Yes? So for me, the cards pointing to the right, they're reaching out. It's trying too hard to achieve or manifest or do whatever is indicated by the card in its upright position. Trying too hard. When the card is pointing to the left, it's not trying hard enough, not doing enough, not putting enough effort or energy or attention into whatever that message, that situation, that activity, which is indicated in the card. So again, when it's upright, it's upright. When it's pointing downwards, if it's reversed, I see it as a resistance. When it's to the right, it's reaching out, trying too hard. When it's to the left, it's not trying hard enough. Yes? And so, if you see these three cards, we have the first card, well, the three cards from left to right are the Ten of Wands, the Eight of Cups, and then the Daughter of Wands, right? 2 fire, 1 water. Interesting right there, right? We've got elementally ill-dignified cards here in a watery time of our lives. Cancer. But we do have 1 watery card there, right there in the center. Also, you notice that the Ten of Wands is pointing to the left, which means we're not doing enough. The Eight of Cups is pointing down, which means that we're resisting that. And then the princess, the daughter, I should say, the Daughter of Wands is pointing upright, which means, yay us, right? So, let's start with just reading these cards, right? So, if you look at the Ten of Wands, what am I sensing around me? The Ten of Wands, we see priestesses. This is the description of the card. Priestesses are having an all-night trance dance to raise energy for healing. Yeah? What am I sensing around me? It's the dance of raising energy for healing. Yeah? But because it's pointing to the, let's see, the left for you, as it should be this way, we're not giving enough energy to that. Or maybe, the question is, what am I sensing around me? I'm sensing that around me, there is not enough attention or energy being given to raising our energy and healing from what we have just passed through in Gemini. Does that make sense? So we have the potential to not lose our minds, or to become dissociated, but a trance dance of depth and connection to the divine, which will energize and raise our energy and bring healing to our society, our group, whatever that is. I'm feeling that we're not giving enough attention to that around us. Yes? Which is interesting, because what is coming up for me or us from within? What feeling is trying to emerge? It's the Eight of Cups reversed. What is that? The feeling. So according to Now, the guidebook for this is wonderful. I suggest getting the guidebook. Don't just get the deck. Get the actual guidebook because that's still available. Here, the card is an octopus who has found her most beautiful cups. Right? But finding these beautiful cups in reverse, according to the creator of this deck, is that feeling of being overwhelmed, being swamped by emotions or depression. Yeah? And if we can think of those cups as being healing, of being beauty and being that which feeds us emotionally. If we were resisting those things, we are feeling overwhelmed. We are feeling swamped. And that flows very nicely from the environment not giving enough energy to healing and to raising our energy. And so what rises up from within us is a feeling of overwhelm and being swamped because maybe we feel like we've got to do that caring and raising energy and healing for the people around us, which is what a Cancer might end up moving towards. But that's overwhelming, and makes us feel swamped by our emotions. And that swamped feeling can cause a depressive state. And so we need to get through or let go of what is preventing us from reaching the core of our being. Let go of the things that are causing us to feel these things. Because maybe the people around us are not doing their job. And I don't want to place responsibility on other people, but if they were doing the trance dance of healing and connection, we wouldn't maybe be feeling this, but they aren't, and we are, and it's not necessarily their responsibility, but we are feeling this effect. Does that make sense? And so, how is the divine presence revealed? The daughter of Wands upright, which would in a Smith-Waite deck be the Page of Wands. Yeah? You see this beautiful woman here, out running with a unicorn. Yeah? According to the creator of the deck, going into a new home with her companion unicorn. Yeah? Cranes are guiding the way. She's running to her new place with her best friend, who is a magical unicorn, being guided by cranes, the birds of wisdom. How perfect is that? That divine light is directing us toward our home. So the divine presence revealed is that we can move quickly towards our new adventure, exploding with life and freedom. Not confined by others' judgments or limitations. Yeah? So they are not doing maybe their job of connecting with the divine, of healing, of energizing, but the divine presence is telling us we can follow the divine to our new home. We can be liberated. We can be free. We don't have to be confined by the low energy around us. Which a Cancer can sometimes feel like they need to take care of these people, and if they can't, they need to go into their shell. And the divine light is saying, follow me. Follow the wisdom, the flying cranes. Go with your best magical friend, spirit maybe, your higher self, your higher power, your guardian angel, whatever you want to name, that non-physical presence that helps guide us, our North Star. Go with our magical friend to our new home. Yes? Now, friends, I've had this up here on the side for a while, the Tree of Life, which is lit up by these cards. Yeah? Because here you can see, for the Ten of Cups, we have Malkuth lit up in purple. For the Eight of Cups, we have Netzach, victory, lit up in purple. But remember, Netzach, lit up in purple, is in resistance now. We're resisting victory. We're resisting success. Right? And the people around us are not doing the job of manifesting of Malkut. But Malkuth also stands in for the princess page. Yes? So that's why Malkuth is also continues to be lit up by both the Ten of Wands and the Princess of Wands. Not because they're wands, but because they're a 10 and a princess or page. Yes? That's all very fascinating. And those are the ill-dignified elements to this watery time of year. But they are lighting up our manifestation. So, what does this mean when we look at these cards more esoterically? Well, the Ten of Wands. Fire, will, fully engaged. Energy everywhere at once. Action cannot be refined any further. It's pleasure to release and rest. Pressure to release because of the buildup of fire. Rest because it's done. Or collapse. And upright, what question I might ask is, what energetic load is so full it must change? Right? Fire has reached its full ignition and momentum is present, energy is available, but it is not crossing into its transformation. It's not moving on into its next step. And because this card is pointing towards the left for you, well, also for me, but this is your left, I think. That means, and answering the question, what am I sensing around me? I'm sensing around me that people are not moving on, right? They're not taking the time, putting energy into releasing or resting or recovering. Things that were also indicated by the guidebook for this card. And now we have the Eight of Cups in reverse. Now, the Eight of Cups, this octopus, is the first decan of Pisces, right? No, I'm sorry, what am I saying? Okay, so no. 1, 2, 3 are Cancer. 4, 5, 6 are Scorpio. 7, 8, the second decan of Pisces, right, is keyed to Cancer. Yes? So we have the moon in Pisces now. Is that sinking in? Okay, so this card is pointing toward the moon in Pisces. So we have the cardinal aspect of mutable water's vital attributes entering our spread here. Yes? And that means that this is lighting up Netzach, which is victory. But because it's reversed, the key word I would say is we're stuck in dissatisfaction. Right? Kind of echoing what we saw from the guidebook for this card. Yes? We're easily hurt and we withdraw. So, and this is what is emerging for us. We are feeling sensitive. We're easily hurt. But when mental suffering is alleviated, we can help others. But we look around, we see people not doing maybe their job, and so it's not alleviated for us. And when this card is reversed, the question I might ask is, where is emotional effort misdirected or avoided? resisted? Yeah, where is our emotional effort? Where are we resisting it? Now, because this is the second decan of Pisces, we have Jupiter in its reverse. We have Jupiter in its detriment, which is Virgo. Jupiter does not like being in Virgo. Yes? So, there is an emotional dissatisfaction without clarity here. It's picking apart our feelings. Yeah? What is that? What is that? Why am I feeling this? What is that? What is that? But. That Virgo quality is amplified. And we have an inability to release due to our overanalysis, because we're picking things apart and we're not satisfied. And we're not able to release because we're so engaged in, well, what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? And, oh, why aren't they doing? Right? And that's what's trying to emerge, is this discomfort and dissatisfaction, and echoing what we just saw from the guidebook, being swamped by emotions or depression even from doing these activities of what's this, what's this, what's this, what's this, why is this, what is this, and not releasing. And now we look at the Princess or Page of Wands, which gives us, for me, the pages are all cardinal. So we have cardinal fire is Aries, which is ruled by Mars. So we have Mars in Aries. But we also have, because it's a page, Mercury entering. So we have Mercury in Aries with the rulership of Mars. Yes? So we have cardinal fire's vital attributes entering, answering the question, how is the divine presence revealed? It's revealed by new fire. Yes? With communication of Mercury. And the energy of Mars. So, we could be sharp. There's a sharpness here. There's a directness and there's a blunt communication potential here. But we can make quick decisions. We can solve problems. We can act without hesitation. You see that prince, the daughter, running without hesitation, right? We break through barriers. And we pioneer new ideas, moving to the new house, right? We're pioneering new ideas. We're initiating projects quickly. That Aries quality. So we're fiery, we're passionate. Thoughts and speech are expressed with passion, with fire. As we run with our unicorn friend towards our new house, that's what the divine is pointing us towards. Wonderful. So, what do we say? Well, let's follow the divine. Let's not get wrapped up in picking apart emotions because we're sensing things not being the way that they should be out in the world. Clear out, clean up and move forward. Allow the blessing of this decan, the flood of new blessing and new fertility and new life into our lives. Allow that to ignite the fire to move us forward towards our new home with our friend, with the guidance of spirit. Does that make sense? I don't know what we're going to call this video. Well, I do know what I'm going to call this video. This is a different kind of decan walk. The first decan of Cancer. Here we are at the end. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And I wish the blessings of this decan fully on you, with the power to and the strength to stand tall in this flood of blessings that are possible. Yes? So friends, thank you. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And thank you for doing all those things that you do. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up button. Thank you for subscribing. You are a blessing and a half. And thank you for commenting in the comment section. I love hearing from you. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.